everybody. Happy Friday. Happy Mexican Independence Day. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month starting yesterday. I am so excited to be here today and to have this conversation. I get to share space with somebody that is super close to my heart. She was there for me and my husband as we deliver both of our kids. And I think that this conversation visit almost more than 4 years ago when I had my first kid, and the support that I received from somebody that is so special to the whole family. Hi, Isabel.
Hello.
How are you? It's so good to see your beautiful face.
You too.
Well, I am super excited to be here, but I know that a lot of my audience don't necessarily know you. So why don't you tell everybody who you are, what is it that you do, and then we can get into the conversation of today.
Sounds good. First, I just wanted to say how proud I am of you to just over these last few years to see your gold, and it's such a blessing to be a small part of your journey. So, without further ado, I'm Isabel Kreis. I have been in the birth community for over 13 years now. I started as a massage therapist and I trained as a doula in 2009. So I've attended over 500 births here in the Valley. I do birth photography, and I've done so much just in-depth work with doula work, from birth doula to postpartum doula to end of life doula. And not recently, but in 2016, I started my journey to becoming a certified professional midwife. And I'll be finishing up that and taking my national exams coming up very soon. So I'm super excited about that. Yeah, and first and foremost, I'm a mom of 5 and a wife of 18 years to an amazing husband. Yeah, that's me.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I I honestly, when I first got pregnant, I knew kind of what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how. I didn't know anything, and I didn't even know what a doula meant. So how would you define being a doula?
Oh God, that's a loaded question.
I know, I know, but you know me. I always just go straight to the chase.
Okay, well, being a doula is it's a work of heart. You have to, one, be healed of your own birth traumas and your own life journeys so that you can step into this space with another family and leave your experience. So walking into someone else's sacred, bring the knowledge of what you know and the experience of what the experiences that you've gone through, but also leaving your own thoughts and feelings and traumas at, right? And walking that journey with somebody else means they're trusting you to guide them through that path, whatever comes, no matter how the baby is delivered. That trust that is built in relationship through the journey of, from the start. Hopefully you're hiring a doula early in your pregnancy, so you get a chance to develop a relationship so that you are trusted in that space.
Yeah, I feel like when I first heard the concept of doula, I wasn't necessarily sure how I felt about it, and I almost felt like this is something that I should be able to do by myself because I am
Right.
pregnant. Like my body is made for this, and yet there was so many questions, and I am so glad that I didn't let my ego take over and ask for the support that I needed, because there's a lot of the whole world of being pregnant that you don't know, and you can
Yeah.
only research someone, and then you still feel like every doctor or appointment that you go to has their own very opinion on how you
Yeah.
should do things. And so for me, I'm going to define what you've been to my life and why you are a huge part of the growth that we have been as a family from the very beginning. I think that when we got pregnant, Ray and I were, yeah, nervous. And then it only took watching seeing the epidural once and watching one YouTube to be like, not gonna happen. I am terrified of needles. There's no way that thing's gonna go near my body. And so that's a lot of pain that I'm gonna feel and that I need to be able to manage. And so you came into our lives when we were nervous, scared, excited, motivated, encouraged. And then I think that you coached us to be empowered to fully stand by how we wanted this bird to look like.
Right. And that's a huge part of it. It's being able to, because we heal ourselves, we then help facilitate that for another couple, another family. And I think that I recall specifically asking, what was something that the two of you went through together that was huge, that you had to support each other, that you had to be there 100% and be present? Both shared, share if you choose to. But I remember with all my clients, it's finding that point in your life as a couple that and even as a woman who has gone through, like, call it period cramps or just intensity and things that we go through in life, like getting to the root of how we deal with pain helps me as your doula to navigate and help you navigate what that pain and how you're going to manage it, labor and birth.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I mean, we were not an easy couple to convince. I have to say, I am very direct and I am full of questions and I'm very opinionated. And back then, I have done a lot of work, Isabel, but back then, I really thought,
Yeah.
no, but Google said this, and then my husband, we know that I am married to a beautiful human being. He's an awesome soul, but he is very set on his ways and safety first. And what he thinks and he has research is right. And
Right.
so to try to convince him out of a tunnel vision is a task. And you did it so wonderfully without any force, without any like, no, you're actually really wrong. Check your data. You were so gracious saying like, I see where you're coming from, but can we try this? Like, there was never like, it never felt hard to trust you, which is huge, knowing that at that time I was kind of like working on trusting my own body. So
Right.
trusting you was like, oh my gosh. And yeah, it's honestly, there's no words to describe what your empowerment did to, well, our first labor, you were there, was for very long.
And it weren't, I think they had scheduled for night, and you're like, nope.
So that's the first thing, though. That's the first thing that I have to say. The date that they gave me was completely wrong. So my baby was due May 22nd. So I am 2 weeks overdue because my Sophia decided not to come until June 6th, which is 2 weeks that I'm dealing with everyday calls from the doctor saying that I'm putting my baby at risk, that that I should probably go in. And I did go in to get checked. I agreed to the ultrasounds that they wanted to do as an extra. I mean, I kind of played nice, but I remember I got to the point that I was like, Isabel, can you take the call? Because I am sick and tired of having the same conversation. I'm not going to go inside. Yes, they wanted to induce me. They wanted to, like, get her out. And it's so funny because actually when Sophia was finally born, after long, long labor, she could have eaten a little longer, I think. Like... But yes, I think that if it wasn't for your support and your presence and the peace that you bring to, well, first we started at the house and then in the hospital and then the electricity went off and we're like, are we supposed to be freaking out right about now? Or...
I know. I saw. Oh my gosh, the lights went out. I remember that. The whole hospital went dark. But like, still, we do everything. Yeah, that remembering was that, like, oh yeah, that was that birth that the hospital went dark.
Yeah, all the lights decided to just shut off and it was like very peaceful, but very like, Is this supposed to be happening right now?
The first person. Yes.
Well, what would you say for why did you get into this? What invited you to this field of dealing with very hormonal, pregnant ladies full of questions? I think I have to say that a lot of us that are pregnant, maybe I'm speaking for myself here, so I'm not gonna say everybody feels this way, but I was very scared of all the things that you read about, like the what to expect when you're expecting. That book is full of like terrible news and like all the worst case scenarios. That so I gave up on half of it. I was like, maybe some of you can fill me in on like what I should actually really know.
Well, I think the main thing for me was options, right? Like with my first, I was fortunate enough to be exposed to home birth with my mom. She had her last two babies at home. So for me, home birth was normal. It was natural. It was what, like that's what I grew up around. So I didn't really question it, but it was through my first experience and all of the other ones that I continued. Like at first it was just for me. Like I just want this information for me. I want to make sure that I know like all of my options when it comes to my body, my baby, the health of my baby. It was my first baby was his life was threatened with a placental abruption early, and the doctors told me that I might as well just abort him because he only had a 10% chance of living, and there wasn't any amount of bed rest or anything that I could do that would stop that. That it
Wow.
was just that was inevitable, that was going to pass, and I might as well just get it over with. Oh, so I was forced to really be on bed rest and to read and educate myself about my options and what I could do. And so the more I educated myself, the more I felt like I needed other women to know this stuff. I needed it wasn't just going to sit with me. I needed to tell everybody that I knew that they have options, that they don't have to just do what the doctors tell them because they're a doctor. Like you can make these decisions for yourself and have that autonomy to do what is best and what you feel is right for you. Every time, like from 14 weeks until 36 weeks, I was on bed rest with my first. My
Wow.
So when they finally cleared me after every like twice a week ultrasounds and checking in on my baby, he continued to grow normally. They told me that even if he did make it, that he would have learning disabilities and he would have growth restrictions and all of these like crazy things that were scary. And I could have easily just like given into that and been like, okay, we'll try again, like I don't know. But thankfully, with the background and knowing that there were other options, and my mom who had her babies at home like was like, no, read these books, like help yourself. Foundation for me to, I went on to have a full-term baby and delivered at home, no complications. My son is healthy and going to be 17 years old this month, like any other way. And so it was like taking that power back for myself and then saying, okay, now I can't hold on to this. Now I need to share it. I need everybody to know, and each pregnancy had its challenge. And so I learned a little bit more and a little bit more with each pregnancy. And with my third baby, that's when I decided to train as a doula, and started attending births with the midwife that trained me. And she's like, you're a natural at this. Like, you're going to thrive in this environment. You're great. So I'm like, okay, awesome. Like I still had 3 kids at home. So I did it for just talking and just talking to women, talking to my circle, the women in my church, just sharing information. That's all that I knew to do was like, I have this information. I need other people to know too. Yeah, that was like the very beginning, the very first start of like just wanting to share what I knew, and I knew I couldn't hold on. it. I couldn't save it just for myself. Um, and with each client, like their scenario, their birth was so different that I would learn something new. And then I dive into that and just like kept learning and growing and, all the way to like end of life. I've had clients who their babies were given a fatal diagnosis. And I'm like, I don't know how to support a client going through that, knowing they're not going to bring their baby home. So I dove into that type of training and how can I show up for my clients? And I think it's that growth mindset. It's not settling for what I have but always looking to move forward and grow and be better. And, now I'm going to be a midwife and I feel like taking that, thank you, all of what I've learned about birth and life and the journey of life and how it begins from the very start, like we eat for our babies and we talk to our babies when they're in our bellies and create that connection so that their whole life is affected by us, the mom, and I just affect change in one family at a time. I've always said that, I'm changing the world one birth at a time, because if I can show you and the next family like something different, give them options, then that changes the narrative for their generation and what they pass on to their children, right?
Absolutely, yes. I feel like I think you did, yes, and I'm so glad that you listened to that midwife of being a natural. I completely agree, and I'm so grateful that you decided to embark this journey because I would think it's a hard one, like, and yet it's so important, and what you're giving not only the mom but the couple is a lot of empowerment and a lot of permission to trust and surrender to the process and realize that your body has it and like actually really hone on that and pay attention to it so you can listen to it and work with it versus have to work with all the medical facility toys that they have and treatments and
Yeah.
I can't even keep up with all the things that they normally offer you, but it was so nice to feel empowered and completely confident on refusing to certain things of saying no, I'm not gonna get induced, I'm okay, I'm gonna just walk it off, the baby's gonna come when it comes, and she sure did. It took a while, it was a long labor, but she came. um,
You
but I
stay
think like
like focused throughout that whole process. Like that was, I mean, it's beautiful to see no matter how many times I see it. But yeah, you're dedicated.
yeah, and I didn't even know I could do that. Like that is the first time that I put myself to. Obviously, it was my first delivery, but it was. Um, I didn't know I was capable of doing that, and I trusted you, knowing that you were gonna have my back and that you were gonna guide me through it. And I was like, yeah, she's done it. Her mom has done it. This is a thing. I can do it. But then the moment that I am holding my own baby, I'm like, oh my gosh, I did it, and I'm like, oh, what else am I capable of? And like, okay, then I can maybe, yes, keep this baby safe because I just delivered it, and so yes, it's such a empowerment that is just hard to describe.
Mhm. I agree. And even my first and everyone after that was like, and having a baby at home, there's no option. Have to get into that mindset or just even being in the hospital, it's even tougher to do it unmedicated because you have all of the opinions of the nurses and everybody telling you, oh, you don't
Why would you suffer? Are you
worry.
sure? Are you sure? I was like, oh my gosh, I am so.
Yeah.
And I think that's where one of the places where my directness came very handy. Like where I was just like, that's enough. Like please don't
Yeah.
ask me again. Like that, I got it. Thank you for the option. I heard it. I acknowledge it. I declined it. I don't want to hear about it anymore because my gosh, they're very persistent.
It makes it easier for them. Fortunately, it's not about being in that scenario. It's about making it. And they work hard, a whole floor of people, that they're keeping watch over. But, that's why it's important to have a support team on your side that is dedicated just to you. That way, because a lot of people say like, oh, we'll have the nurses or we'll have our provider, but even the provider shows up later, just to catch the baby, like they're not there hanging out and labor sitting, squeezing
Yes,
hands.
like in my yes, like in my second birth, that the doctor walked in like literally just in time. A nurse was already kind of like halfway there,
Yeah.
but I'm like, oh wow, that was efficient. And then he just walked out. He's like, all right, bye,
Yeah.
nice meeting you. Even though I never seen you before. Yes, it's so interesting. Honestly, I think that it is with you that I discovered the power of having somebody in your corner, having somebody support you and just your goals and just your person, the way that you are, how with the trauma that you come from, your very specific fears. Like it's the first time that I experienced the actual, because there's mentors, there's like self-development that you can do on your own, but having somebody there to get to know you so well that can guide you through how to not speed your process, but surrender to it and
Yeah.
trust the process itself. I think it's so powerful, and that's kind of how I discovered like the power of coaching as a whole. Having a birth coach just like you, and that brought two kids into our world.
Yeah. You did it beautifully.
Yes.
Ask I didn't because I believe when we first met, you were still working at the bank, right? Um,
Yes.
so like I was curious, like where, like the book and like when you started coaching, because I followed you, like just on social media and keeping up with and watching your adventures and stuff, but I must have missed like that transition of where you took that jump.
I um I definitely think that I I gain a whole different level of confidence and trust in myself and my whole body after having my kids, and
Mhm.
having Sophia at home and having to go back to work felt really hard
Yeah.
and completely. Mm, that's not how I wanted to do things. Like, but I wanted to continue working,
Yeah.
and so it was while I was seeking the support to be able to balance it all that
Yeah.
I learned of other coaches, like parenting coaches, emotional coaches, how to get to know your body all over again. And I just fell in love with the process of surrendering to the process, trusting yourself, listening to your own body, and by doing that, I couldn't ignore it anymore. Once you start getting to know your body enough and listen to it, it gets a lot harder to ignore it, because you're like, oh my gosh, okay, I
Yeah.
hear you. You're unhappy. I get it. And so I couldn't really I couldn't pretend to love my job anymore. And here's the thing. I enjoyed my career at the bank, and I was good at it, and I did the best that I could until I just couldn't,
Yeah.
until it was not aligned with who I was, and my body is loud, my face is clear, like you can tell how I'm feeling about things. And so it was time to really surrender to what is it that felt right.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, that's how I started coaching. Like first, I did it for myself, for my own sanity, for my own balance, to try to shield the trauma that I personally had, so I wouldn't pass it to my kids. I really thought that was, once I met them, I felt this sense of responsibility of like, all right, this downplaying is over. Like now they're watching. Now I do think that kids learn by example, so I need to do that. And I remember Ray, he's amazing, but he's also very direct, which is something that we have in common. And he's like, Telma, it's time. This is the big leagues now. Like you need to not waste your time in it. Like I have always had a tie, I think, with like, nah, I don't like wasting my time. And he's like, well, that's exactly what you're doing in corporate. And I was like, oh, I felt so called out that I was like, all right, yeah, you're right. And
Yeah.
and he was right. So yeah, I took the risk to trust myself, and I left corporate after 14 years of being there and talking to coaching others with the same mission that you have, of sharing what I have learned so they can feel empowered and create the life that they want to have, and knowing that all the power is in you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ah, that's so
Yeah.
amazing. So, so amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. It's been a journey, and there's a lot of things that I'm like, oh wow, there's a lot more to not being in corporate that I need to learn, but one thing at a time, and it does allow me to be a lot more present with my kids, yeah, which is super important to me, as you know.
Yep.
And yeah,
That's amazing. I'm so proud of you. I can't believe you wrote a book. Like, you wrote a book, Telma.
I wrote a book, yes. And in that book, I tell the story of how much support you gave me through, in the most scariest part of my life, really, and the empowerment that you gave me and my husband, and as a, how much of a difference it made into our partnership and teamwork, because in there we also learned that, like, oh my gosh, we can do so much together when we learn how to, like, dance in this life. You you sometimes you have to push my hips, sometimes you have to release all control, sometimes I'm like, let me sink down into the hot tub. Yeah,
True.
it was
Every,
empowerment on our teamwork and partnership as well.
yeah, every dance. Like, there's a labor dance, the dance of life, the dance of everything can be attributed to that. That is really cool. I love it.
Yes, I really think so, which is why I named the book Own Your Dance, because it's an invitation to realize what dance can do to you if when you learn to maybe not resist so much and actually flow with the movement of life and
Birth
trusting
is
your
one of
body
the
to do so.
birth you to surrender because it's going to happen whether you surrender or not. It's how much you surrender and how at what point you release that things start to get easier for you, right? Or you just
Yes.
accept what the unknown. It's so unpredictable, right? Just like life, we don't know what the future holds. We can plan for today and we can set goals, just like in birth. And sometimes those things come about and sometimes they don't, but you still have to roll with the punches and heal from and process and work through all of that. It's a preparation for life.
Absolutely, yes. And I feel like I didn't learn surrender until that day. Like, you coached me on it. You told me what's gonna happen. You told me there's gonna be a point in which you're gonna, and like you walked me through it, and you gave me a lot of the house. But there was a moment in which you're like, all right, this, I get it. I finally get it. And followed by a major scream that would
Like,
scare anybody.
oh, wait.
Yeah. Uh, but it's so, like, it doesn't only happen at birth, it happens in your life too. And if you stop resisting it or feeling like you have this ability to control everything, it gets a lot easier. And it's hard to believe because control makes us feel safe, and yet technically we're not really
Yes.
necessarily ever safe. But yes, I've read a book in which you are part of because of your coaching, the empowerment, the magic that you brought not only to me but at my partnership, and honestly I'm so grateful for you to be there to show me to be patient, because I am very stubborn. I'm a work in progress, but I am not an easy person to, like, no, now you need to relax. What? How does that look?
Yeah. I am so honored and appreciative and grateful that you chose to, like even just a small feature, just mentioning. I think that it's a huge honor and I appreciate it very much.
No, it's honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way, and I don't think anybody does it. Your name is not in our house, and we still be like, sometimes I still text you like, I don't know what to do with this flu. I like, what's next? And you have had my back ever since I became
Yeah.
pregnant. Not
Yeah.
even a mom, but
Well,
pregnant. So
my client says, all of life doula, like everything, all of life. Anytime I need you, I just call you and you always respond.
yes, 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 yes. Somebody said that Isabel is amazing, and I couldn't agree more. I told all my friends about it. Like, I had a friend at work. They're like, oh yeah, my wife is pregnant. I was like, oh, she should probably talk to Isabel soon. Like, trust me, you want her to talk to Isabel soon. I'm doing you a favor. You can thank me later, because it does release a lot of the pressure of from you having to know it all and
Yeah.
study it all, and there's a overload of information. But I want to be respectful of your time, and I just want to thank you for sharing the space, for sharing such an intimate space, There's not a part of my body that Isabel has not seen. There's not a part of my fears that Isabel hasn't seen. And yet, it's with so much love and compassion and patience and grace you have empowered me to show up to the person that I know I can be. And
Oh,
the mom.
ew. I love you so much.
So, yes, if you need a doula, all kinds of doula here. Like I use her for my birth, but I highly recommend Isabel. She's definitely close to deep in my heart, deep in my husband's heart. Even my mother-in-law and my mom are like, thank God for her.
Hey.
um, and yes, I will. I cannot wait for you to read what how I try to express the gratitude that we feel for you and your empowerment. And I hope that you all find the permission to fully trust your body, surrender, love, and allow
Yes.
the dance of life to be.
Beautiful.
Anything else before we close out? I thank you for everybody that joined. I know that you are probably here because you're a huge fan of Isabel. Me too.
Everybody
and,
in and check out Telma's book and follow her if you need life coaching. She's amazing, clearly, as you can see.
well, thank you so much for sharing your space. Yes, the book is going to be available September 27th, and I cannot wait. It is during the Hispanic Heritage Month, which means a lot to me because I am still very much Mexican at heart. and yeah, well, Isabel, thank you so much. I love you, and I will see you so soon. We can cheers the glass to you becoming a midwife, which I know this was happening when you were my doula. So I am so proud to see you live up to your dream too, as you continue to bring beautiful kids into this world. Awesome kids too. They're all sporty and smart.
Thank you so much. I look forward to lunch.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Thank you, everybody
Bye.
who joined. I'll see you soon.